Are you thinking of moving to Seattle, Washington, but you don't know if it's the right place for you? Well, stay tuned. This video, I'm going to give the pros and cons of living in Seattle, Washington. Hey everybody, my name is Tova Williamson. I'm a local real estate agent in the Seattle metro area. So if you're thinking about moving to Seattle or anywhere in the metro area and buying a house, give me a call, email, text. We got your back when you're moving to Seattle. Okay, so this video, I am going to talk about the pros and the cons of living in Seattle. So I think Seattle is a great place to live, but there's good things and there's bad things of everywhere. So we're going to go over some of those in this video. So we're going to start with pros first, and then we'll move on to the cons. So some of the pros of living in the area. Number one is there's just so much going on in Seattle. There's so many activities, there's concerts, there's sporting events, there's like so many restaurants, there's just something for everyone here, whether you're outdoorsy or you want to join a book club or a knitting circle or anything. Like there's just nothing to do here. There's always something to do. If you're bored, you can go find something, go for a walk somewhere, or go to a restaurant, go to a pub, join some club, go to a museum. There's tons of festivals always, like in the summertime. There's all these activities. There's just so much to do here. That's one of the things I just love about living here is you're never bored. There's never a reason to be bored. Like, yes, it rains a lot, you're inside, but there's so many things to do. There's so many indoor activities, there's kid activities, there's parks, there's something for everyone here. So that's what I love about it. There's never kind of a dull moment here. There's always just something going on, something to do. Number two pro of Seattle is the natural beauty. So Seattle is just surrounded by mountains and water and lakes and streams and rivers. And we've got Puget Sound, which is salt water. You can go to the coast. It's just so beautiful here. It's a major outdoors person's like dream. If you're into hiking, you like the great outdoors, you like camping, there's no shortage of hiking trails and forests and just so many things that you would want to do. Fishing. There's just like every outdoor activity you could ever want. Skiing, snowboarding, snowshoeing. You can go up to the mountains. You can go to the beach. You can surf on the coast. There's just so much going on. So there's just so much natural beauty here. Everywhere you look, when it's not a gray day and the clouds aren't blocking all the mountains, when it's sunny, clear day, and you can just look and you see all the mountains around. You see Mount Rainier, which is just beautiful. You see the Cascades across the water. Like you're driving sometimes and you just get like teary-eyed almost at how beautiful it is. It's just so breathtaking when the sun is out and it's nice. It's absolutely gorgeous, absolutely perfect. This picture, it looks pretty nice. You got kind of a partly cloudy day. You got some blue sky there, so people will be pretty happy about that. But just the greenery everywhere, it's so beautiful. I never get bored of just the natural beauty that's everywhere here. So that's a major pro. It's just like a feast for the eyes of natural beauty here. Number three pro about Seattle and living in Seattle is they've got great parks. Seattle has over 400 city parks. Basically every neighborhood has at least one park. There's no shortage of outdoor spaces to go. You've got parks along water, parks with beach access where you can go swimming on the lakes, parks with big trails where you can kind of go hiking. There's smaller parks, dog parks, there's kid parks with playgrounds where kids can play. So Seattle's a really great park city, I think. And there's just the same thing, no shortage of parks. You've got like Seward Park, which is a huge park out on the lake. Volunteer Park is another really big park. Discovery Park is over like off Magnolia on the water. You can go there and see seals sometimes. And sometimes you don't always see orcas there, but sometimes you can. And if it's the right season, sometimes you can see some really great wildlife at some of these parks. So it's just a really great outdoorsy place. Again, we're going to talk about the weather and the cons, but even with the bad weather, like there's still so many parks. You just get on your gear and you can enjoy all of the parks that Seattle has to offer. Another pro, something that I like, I lived in Phoenix, a very warm place before. There was really lack of seasons. So Seattle definitely has pretty distinct 4 seasons. We don't really get the snow. In the winter, it does snow sometimes, but we definitely have a very distinct spring season where everything's blooming. It's so pretty. Right now it's like mid-March, so we're just starting to see some of that stuff pop off. Like daffodils are starting to come up. You're starting to see some of the blossoms on the trees start to bloom. So spring is absolutely beautiful here because there's so much greenery and so many trees and plants here. There's just so many flowers that come sprouting up when the weather gets nice. And our climate is pretty mild too. We don't get usually the major extremes like some other areas. So our spring tends to come a little bit sooner than some of those areas that get like the full-blown snow in the winter, like North Idaho. I'm from North Idaho. It's usually like snow still, like freezing, like their stuff starts sprouting way later than here. So it's really nice to get those 4 seasons. So you get the distinct spring, summer when it finally hits. Sometimes it takes a while, but when we do get summer, it is absolutely beautiful, blue skies, perfect weather. We do get some heat waves, usually every summer where it's pretty hot and kind of miserable, usually only a few days. And then typically 80 degrees is kind of like the optimal temperature in the summer, but we do get some of those heat waves where it's in the 90s and even hundreds sometimes, and we are seeing those more and more. So not the funnest thing, but we definitely have a distinct summer. And then fall again, because of all the trees, when those leaves start falling, like fall is just so beautiful here. All the colors, the oranges and reds and yellows, so it's really fun, and you get the whole like pumpkin patch, like apple picking thing going on here too, which is really fun. So you can really like embrace each season. And then we have winter, which is just rain. It just rains from like November to April, May, June, July sometimes. So our winter is definitely more rain, not as much snow. I like that because, like I said, I grew up in North Idaho with snow. I'm not into the snow anymore, so it's kind of perfect to get that mild. It doesn't get like too cold in the winters either. We do get, again, some cold snaps where it'll freeze and it's crazy and it lasts a few days and people's pipes burst and it's like horrible, but we don't have these like long freezing cold winters. We get a couple days of it and then it's just mild rain the rest of the time. So the 4 seasons in the climate I think are perfect for me. Not everybody likes that, but I think it's kind of like the perfect mix of 4 seasons here. Another pro, the last one I'm going to talk about, is Seattle is a really well-known like healthcare area with a lot of great access to quality healthcare. Something that people don't always think about when they're moving places, but UW, we have UW Medical Center that was named like the #1 medical center in the state. There's Swedish, Seattle Children's is a really highly rated children's hospital. So there's just a lot of really great medical facilities and medical care. You have options here, which not every place, like if you're in a smaller town or something, you may not always have access to that. So that's something that is just really nice about living here is there's hospitals everywhere. Like if an emergency happens, like you can usually hopefully get in pretty quick and you have a lot of good care to choose from. And I know a lot of neighboring towns in the state and area, a lot of people will come to Seattle for healthcare just because there's so much better options here. So just something that I think is not always on people's radar, but it's a really nice thing to have is quality healthcare where you live. So Seattle has that. All right, so now we're going to dig into the cons. I'm sure people will come up with a lot of other cons in the comments, but we're going to dive right in. Con number 1 is the traffic. So Seattle is known for terrible traffic. I'll show you. Our geography too is part of the reason why the traffic is so terrible. As you can see, we're just surrounded by water and water and water. So there's bridges and there's really only one freeway that goes north and south to get you in Seattle. It's always, starting at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it gets congested. So it's just really bad if you're trying to get around. You have the 99, also Aurora Ave, which is another way to get around. Traffic is bad there too. And as you get further north, then you have a bunch of lights that you're hitting to go north. But that's the thing. If you're living outside of Seattle and commuting into Seattle, traffic's just gonna be terrible no matter what. It's not fun. There's the light rail that goes south to the airport and it goes up to Northgate now. So if you live or work along that kind of I-5 corridor to where the light rail is right now, you can also always ride that and not have to sit in traffic as much, but it's still just something that is bad. And the drivers here are like not good either. It's very passive aggressive kind of people don't know how to merge here, and then people that never honk their horns really as much either. They just like speed around and get mad, and I don't know. So the drivers here, other people complain about it all the time. So traffic is not great. The drivers are a little like crazy. They don't know how to merge onto the freeway too. So just prepare yourself when you're living here, and if you're going to be driving and commuting, just traffic is not fun, and traffic starts at midday. It just goes all day. So not a fun thing. Number 2 con is the cost of living. So Seattle, it's an expensive place to live. It's just kind of known for that. Gas prices are high here. Housing is expensive. Median home price, I think we're in like the 900s right now, is for single family homes. So prices have just continued to rise for housing. We have low inventory. We don't have a lot of housing. So that's just been creating this kind of need for homes and these expensive prices because there's just not a lot going on. And again, when I look at that map and you see there's not a ton of land necessarily to build on and to spread out in Seattle. So basically like the city's pretty much like fairly built. Now we're seeing single family zoning has gone away in Seattle. And so now we're seeing a lot more multifamily units on single lots. So we're going to start seeing a lot more of that. Hopefully that will help kind of alleviate some of this housing shortage that we have here, but it's just expensive and just part of living here. So sometimes I know people move here and they get a new job and they're like, oh yeah, I'm making like really good money. Seems like really good, but really it's not that much for Seattle standards. I mean, I think I heard someone say like 100K is the new 50K or something. And even that's like, you're living pretty simply on 100K a year in Seattle, just depending on your lifestyle. But yeah, with the way that housing prices are, it's definitely not a cheap place to live. Number 3, I touched on a little bit, but the weather. So we love the 4 seasons here, but that kind of long winter that we get of the rain, it's just a part of life. It's gray here. It rains a lot. Some people just have major shock when they move here. They can't stand it. They hate it. They don't want to deal with it. It just is what it is. But we get that lovely, lovely, beautiful greenery here that not every other place gets. If we didn't have all that rain, we wouldn't be so green. It would be like a lot drier. So you got to embrace it a little bit, get rain boots, get a jacket with a hood, kind of just deal with it, but be prepared because those dark days, like once the winter hits and then we're getting dark at like 3:34, and then if it's a gloomy dark day, it's like 2 o'clock almost, it's dark, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's so rough sometimes. So you got to just deal with it, put some Christmas lights up in your apartment or something and try to just like embrace the light. Those UV lamps people use to just help beat that seasonal affective disorder. But it's definitely something that a lot of people experience. A lot of people don't like. A lot of people move away because they don't like the weather. So be prepared. It's gray here. It's just how it is. Number 4 con is something we call the Seattle freeze. So I don't know if it's just because the weather is so bad and people get so reclusive and then they're inside all the time. It's just the way that Seattleites are, and people kind of in the area, it's not just specific to Seattle, like all the suburbs too, kind of. It's just people are generally polite, but they're not like going out of their way to just talk to you and be really nice and making friends. I know a lot of people that move here that say it's been really hard to make new friends here because people just aren't as like outgoing as maybe some other areas. I think some places, especially like in the South when people are from, they're used to just everybody talking and knowing your business, and it's, everybody's super friendly. It's not that same vibe here. Like people are generally friendly, I feel like if you need directions on the street corner, people are usually happy to help you, but otherwise, like that's it. It's like, well, don't become friends now. Like keep it here, keep it at arm's length. So it's just interesting. I don't know what it is. If it's just the weather, it kind of gets people in themselves a little too much because we have so many days of gray that they just get used to that and then they don't want to talk to people. I don't know, but just be prepared because everybody here, when they move here, does talk about it and it is a thing. So it does help to get involved in groups. There's like meetup groups or just joining little clubs or something as a way to meet people through your work or something. You just might have to be a little bit more proactive on meeting people and making new friends when you move here because people just tend to kind of be more reclusive and just kind of like stick to what they know and do what they do and not really go out and meet more people. So just something to prepare for. And the last con that I am going to talk about in Seattle is our homeless population. It's not really a secret that Seattle's got quite a large homeless population. It's a really unfortunate problem. It's only gotten worse as I've lived here. I mean, I've lived here since '09 and just watched it just steadily increase over the years. Rising housing prices are not helping any of that by getting anybody affordable housing because it doesn't really exist in Seattle. So it's just a definite reality of living here. It's more concentrated typically to the downtown area, but you do see along the freeway overpasses and just certain, neighborhoods with a lot going on. You'll see homeless populations there or people in their cars and stuff. So it's just something to be prepared for. If you're coming from another large city, it might not be as big of a shock to you, but definitely coming from like a smaller town or somewhere where there's just not as much homeless population, it might be a major shock to you. So just something to prepare for. It's here. Unfortunately, I don't know what's going to be done about it, if anything's going to change, but it's just something about living here, unfortunately. So those are the pros and cons of living in Seattle. Definitely has its cons, but I think overall Seattle, the pros outweigh the cons. Love living here. So if you want to move here and you're looking to buy a house, give us a call, email, text. We got your back when you're moving to Seattle.